Nebraska going into bankruptcy because of self-inflicted damage. They were team firing over here, saying, you know what, everybody pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Our ideology is nobody should get anything that they don't deserve. Now they want a bailout. They're asking for socialism. Socialism bad until I need socialism.
So Nebraska voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. They didn't vote for him once. They voted for him time and time and time again. They felt that they were making a wise decision, but it turns out that this was probably the worst decision they could have ever made. The nuts and bolts, the core of their economy, the agriculture industry, is absolutely being annihilated as a result of their vote.
Right now, Nebraska has all sorts of challenges are cropping up for Nebraska farmers. The Nebraska Farmers Union says producers are facing the toughest time in decades.
Their costs are rising, but commodity prices are falling, meaning they can't really turn a profit, and that's hurting the rest of the state's economy. Channel 8's Jake Holman joins us live after talking with a local farmer. Jake, what'd you find out?
Yeah, Rod, Sophia, the GDP numbers for the first quarter of 2025, which is another tool, a measurement to estimate the size of the economy. It does not paint a pretty picture for the state of Nebraska here, and in large part because of the largest industry, which is agriculture. Now, tonight we hear how one farmer is coping with these challenges.
With the interest rates where they are right now, it's putting everybody into a bind.
Bill Landon is one of the many farmers in Nebraska who's in a tight spot financially. According to a report from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, Nebraska's gross domestic product fell more than 6% in the first quarter, tied with Iowa for the largest decrease in the nation. And it's because of losses in agriculture.
Now, you remember Don Bacon, the Republican from Nebraska? He's even saying the quiet part aloud. Nebraska's in trouble, and it owes a lot to the tariff policy and all the bullshit that Donald Trump has enacted on that state. So, Don, my man, don't be surprised when everyone told you, just like your MAGA cohorts in your state, everyone told you that this was going to be the case, but yet you failed to listen. My mother would always say, and I think she was a genius, she would always say, if you lie down with dogs, you will get fleas. Well, Nebraska, you laid down with Donald Trump. You laid down with Donald Trump, knowing what his policies were, knowing his Project 2025 tendencies, and you now have fleas. In reality, this is not about red or blue. This is about business, the business of politics. And I believe that there is a nefarious plan to take family farms. And I'm talking about family farms. And it is based on causing them to go bankrupt, coming in with the hedge funds and buying at a fire sale price. So Nebraska, you got exactly what you voted for.
Nebraska farmers are starting to go bankrupt. Now, there's different reasons why this is happening, but let me give you two of the main reasons. The cost of the supplies and labor shortages. I don't know, Nebraska. Thoughts and prayers.
Nebraska, how you doing, baby? Not too well, yeah. Especially the farmers. You farmers had it going on. $2 billion in exports with your, soybeans to China. That's gone. And now your immigrants who worked in the summer, they're gone. And $350 million in taxes are not going to be paid, correct? You are losing millions in tariffs, according to your governor. And it is really affecting the small businesses. But you went overwhelmingly for the criminal in chief. So either you really wanted to go broke or backfired on your ass. And I don't understand, because he only knows a few words, and he must have said the word tariffs about 1,000 times. So either you didn't care You didn't think it was going to affect you? Or you just saw black and you saw white. And now your state and you are in the red. And I hate to see anybody lose everything. I mean, but I don't care. I don't care. Because you didn't care.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joy Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. The video opens with a shocking reality check. Nebraska farmers, many of whom proudly wore MAGA hats and cheered on anti-immigrant policies, are now crying at town halls, pleading for help as their farms face bankruptcy. This is the ultimate FAFO moment. They supported a political agenda that pushed out immigrant labor, slammed tariffs on crops, and cut vital safety nets for rural America. And now, it's all coming back full circle. Before we proceed, all credit goes to the creators of these videos. Let me play you a few more and I'll come back with my final commentary.
I know right now, people, it's hard to find some joy in some things, but what I find joy in is I just watched a video on Montana where the Montana farmers are going bankrupt. I think the state voted 100% districts to what's going on now, so fuck them. And then I look at Nebraska and see all the farmers crying about how they're losing everything. And then I look at Nebraska and how much they voted for this and how the farmers endorsed all this. And I say, fuck them. And then I'm watching the soybean farmers crying about how they can't export soybeans anymore because nobody wants them and they're losing money. But they supported this. Fuck them. Then I saw a video on vegetable farmers in Alabama that all their crops are going rotten because they don't have anybody to work the fields, but they voted for this, so fuck them. You all got what you voted for. Fuck you. We tried to tell you.
Montana and Nebraska farmers are now bankrupt. Why can't they just fucking work harder? Like, bro, why the hell are they trying to, like, get handouts and shit, bro? Yeah, you're bankrupt. Fucking pull yourself out by your bootstraps and work harder. Like, this has to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in a while. Like, bro, they need to stop playing the fucking victim. Like, yeah, everybody has gone bankrupt. Everybody's been broke before. Stop playing the victim, bro. Like, on God, at this point, I really just think that they want fucking handouts or something. Like, y'all just need to focus on yourself first. Stop focusing on, like, other people. Come on now. Like, y'all fucking voted for this. You get what you get.
I'm so excited for everyone to call me a bad person again in my comments, but guess what? I do not care about Nebraska going bankrupt in 6 months. I do not care. I do not care. Maybe a few other of those red states should go bankrupt in 6 months so the blue states can swoop in to save them, so they can understand that we are not the bad ones. We are not the poor ones. We are not the ones who cannot survive under the orange turds' crazy policies. But you know why I don't feel bad for Nebraska? You know why? Because I believe I heard 65% of their workforce is undocumented people, which means they're not coming to work anymore.
Man, I just tell you now, to Nebraska. Goofy ass niggas. Yeah, that bankruptcy ain't feeling too good, huh? Y'all was all hyped for Trump, you know, MAGA 2025, right? Now look at you. Family hungry, can't feed your kids. But you know, F those migrants, right? Those dang migrants, they're the problem. Get them out of here, man. Goofy.
It's Joe from Georgia. So we're getting ready for the first domino to fall, and we know what happens after the first one falls. Well, the state of Nebraska, the governor, Jim Pillen, has asked the federal government for help because they're not going to be able to pay their bills this year. And here's the problem in Nebraska. They had over a $2 billion contract with the Chinese government to export soybeans to China. Well, out of that $2 billion, they've canceled all the contracts. So out of that $2 billion, $350 million was state revenue taxes. They're not getting any of that. And the governor also goes on to say that because the migrant farmers weren't able to work in Nebraska this summer, that those people didn't pay their taxes either. And the farmers who already have crops in the ground, folks, they've already spent their money. They're going to need help too because they're not getting any money from the contracts anymore. So Nebraska is the first state. And when you look at the Midwest, you're probably looking at Kansas, you're looking at Iowa, South Dakota, all of those places that are large exporters of grains to China and depend on migrant farm labor. They're not going to be able to pay their bills either. So here's the first one to fall. But of course, as we do know, a certain person in a certain house in Washington, D.C. at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they know all about bankruptcy. I'm sure they'll be able to help.
For years, immigrant workers were the backbone of America's farming economy. They worked the field, handled livestock, and kept farms running when younger generations moved away from rural towns. But when MAGA politicians promised to secure the borders and crack down on immigrants, many Nebraska farmers thought those policies would somehow help them. They believed the false promise that removing immigrants would bring higher wages and more jobs for real Americans. What they failed to realize was that their own survival depended on those immigrants they voted to push out. Now, the reality is devastating. Across Nebraska, crops are rotting in the fields, dairy farms are understaffed, livestock aren't being cared for properly. There simply aren't enough workers to keep these massive farming operations running. And the sad part, the local workforce isn't rushing in to replace immigrants. Many rural Americans simply don't want back-breaking farm labor for low wages. Immigrants were filling a critical gap, and now that gap has grown into a full-blown crisis. To make matters worse, tariffs and trade wars with allies have cut into Nebraska farming profits. Countries that once imported American corn, soybeans, and beef are now turning to Brazil, Argentina, and even China itself to fill the void. Farmers in Nebraska are watching their export markets collapse, their storage silos fill up, and their bank accounts drain faster than they can recover. Some are already facing foreclosure, others are drowning in debt, praying for federal relief that keeps getting slashed by the very administration they voted for. The irony is painful. These farmers were warned. Black communities, Democrats, economists, and even moderate Republicans tried to explain how Trump's anti-immigrant policies and reckless tariffs would hurt agriculture fast. But MAGA farmers dismissed those warnings as fake news. They doubled down on their support, believing Trump would protect real Americans and put America first. But what they got instead was the destruction of their own livelihoods. And now they are breaking down in tears at town halls. Farmers are crying as they tell lawmakers they can't pay their bills, can't find workers, and can't see a way forward. Some admit they feel betrayed. Others still try to defend their votes but quietly acknowledge that the system is failing them. This is the harsh reality of FAFO. When you ignore the warnings, when you support policies built on hate and division, the consequences eventually land at your own doorstep. Nebraska, like much of the Midwest, built its wealth on agriculture. But without immigrants, the backbone of that system is snapping. Farms are shutting down. Families that once prided themselves on being self-reliant are now begging for government bailouts. And what's worse, they're still blaming everyone but themselves. Some point fingers at Democrats, some blame environmental policies, but deep down, many of them know the truth. They voted for this. They supported the very agenda that stripped their farm of labor, trade, and stability. And it's not just the farmers who are suffering. Entire rural towns are collapsing alongside them. When farms fail, local businesses fail too. Grocery stores, diners, schools, and hospitals in the small towns rely on farming money to survive. As farmers go bankrupt, communities lose tax revenue, jobs, and services. This is how entire regions turn into ghost towns, and all because of a political movement built on false promises and scapegoating. The heartbreaking part is watching farmers cry about losing everything while still refusing to acknowledge their role in creating this disaster. Some are finally waking up. A few are admitting they made a mistake by voting for anti-immigrant policies, but for many, the stubbornness runs too deep. They would rather lose their farms than admit they were wrong, and that stubbornness is costing them everything. This is the American tragedy unfolding in Nebraska right now. Farmers who once thought they were untouchable are realizing the hate-fueled policies don't put food on the table, don't bring in workers, and don't keep farms running. Love it or hate it, America's farming economy depends on immigrants, and without them, Nebraska farmers are discovering the hard way that you can't harvest corn with slogans and you can't milk cows with nationalism. So the question is, Will they finally learn from this? Or will they keep clinging to a broken system, hoping someone else will save them from the consequences of their own vote? Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than Nebraska. It's a warning for the entire country. When you vote against your own interests, when you let hate guide your decisions, the fallout is inevitable. And for Nebraska MAGA farmers, the fallout is here, and it is brutal. So what do you all think? Should the farmers be pitied for being misled? Or should they face the full consequences of their choices? Do you think they'll ever admit that they were wrong? Or will they double down on denial even as their farms collapse? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it from me. I also have a FAFO playlist, and if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, the Joy Reports out.